So I got this cool question the other day, and it's actually a really, really good question. It was basically, who's in charge of the logistics of the equipment? Who's in charge of, or not necessarily who's in charge, but how do I make sure that all of my accounts have everything that they need? How do I make sure that my cleaners have everything that they need? Who's in charge of taking those things back and forth? And the reason why I think it's a good question is because it's one of those questions that don't really have just one particular answer. This answer is layered. It's going to be different from someone who is hiring their first employee to someone who has, multiple employees. It's just going to be different. And the cool thing is like it made me actually look back and think on how much my process has changed from, when we first started to where we are now. But the benefit that you're going to get today is you're going to see the process. You're going to see what I did and, what I did then, how I do things now. But I'm going to say this. I got one ask. Like, if you get any value out of what it is that I'm about to tell you, just go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe. I'm curious on your comments. I definitely want to know what you think. With that said, let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, so here's the thing. When we first started, we only worked with W-4 workers. Versus now we work with predominantly subcontractors. We do have some W-4 workers, but predominantly we work with subcontractors. And here's why I'm going to start off by saying that is because when it comes to our W-4 workers, we are responsible for everything. When it comes to our contractors, they're responsible for everything. We're just responsible to make sure that we live up to our end of the deal. Their end of the deal consists of them running their staff, running their equipment, however they do things, right? They're responsible for that. We just have a scope of work that needs to get done, and they say that they can do it at this rate. And once we agree, we sign paperwork, they go on about their way, and then we just do follow-ups to make sure that things are getting done in the correct way. So this question really pertains mainly to W-4 workers, okay? So thinking back, when we, not necessarily when we first started, but when I kind of started to like get my groove and try to like when I was figuring things out, when I was confident, like, okay, all I got to do to get another account is continue to do what I did to get the first account. And once I started to do those things, I started rolling, like things really started moving. So it got to the point where it's like, okay, I can no longer continue to do the work. Prior to me getting to that point where it was like I could no longer do the work, me and my wife, we would carry like all of our equipment with us, right? We carried from account to account to account. All I really needed was like one vacuum, maybe two. I'll get to the second one here in a minute. But all I needed was just the things that I needed. And then we were small. Like we're making okay money, but we were really, really small. So it got to the point where it's like, okay, I need to hire, right? I need to remove first, like get my wife out of this stuff, but then also too, like I need to be able to remove myself. So we started the hiring process. Now, what I'm going to say is this. We have a lot of different requirements when it comes to who we allow to come and work for our company. But two of the requirements that we have apply specifically to this question, which is who's responsible for equipment. The first question or the first requirement that we have is this. You have to have reliable transportation, okay? Number two, you have to be okay with carrying equipment in your car. And just because I say that doesn't mean that everyone will be required to do that, but you have to be okay with it, okay? So when you hire someone, you bring them in, however your training system looks like, you have to apply this to your training system, or you could take pieces of what I'm about to tell you and apply it to your training system. So our training system, in a nutshell, looks like this. While our workers are in training, they're not required to carry anything, right? We don't ask them to carry anything. They're not allowed to carry anything. In the beginning, I would take them the equipment every night. We would meet at the location at a certain time. I would bring the equipment in, let them do their thing, or give them their assignments, let them do their thing, For the first week or so, I would stick close by. And then once they're all done, I'd get the equipment, get out of there. Same thing tomorrow, right? We didn't have a lot of accounts to give them. It wasn't like they were coming in and they just had this full schedule. A lot of our W-4 workers, this was even now, like this is a part-time job for them. This is not, we got one who does, she's just a beast, but yeah, this isn't their only source of income. They do things during the day, which is fine because all of our stuff, most of our stuff is at night. So I would bring all of the equipment there. I would take it away, and we would do this on and on. And this is why I say this is a gray area. I say this is a gray area because they don't really know us, and we don't know them, right? We're learning each other. We're trying to figure things out. So once they make it through training, right, and once they show that they know how to do the job, that they can handle these keys, and that they can, they know how to use the alarm. You show them how to use the alarm. I don't give them the code. I'll stand over them, make sure they know how to do it. And once they've demonstrated that they know how to do these things and they're about ready to graduate from training, that's when I give them equipment. But we're still checking on them, right? We're still checking on them. This is with the first person. Now, the first person, we always work in teams of 2. So we're looking to hire someone quickly as possible. But while we're looking to hire someone as quickly as possible, our marketing department is really ramping up because the second person is going to come in and they're going to want hours too. So we need more accounts. Okay. So while we're looking to get these accounts, we're looking to bring someone else in. So when the second person comes in, they're going to go through the same process, right? It's the only thing different is they're not going to need keys. They're not going to need equipment because the first person has that. Here's the difference between the two. Whoever's carrying the equipment, they're going to get paid a little bit more. Okay. They're going to get paid just a little bit more than the person who's not carrying the equipment. Once we get to the point where we now go from that 1 staff to 2 staff, and our marketing is still growing. It's getting bigger. It's getting larger. It's expanding. We're able to take the same process, right, that we got the first one with, and then we just multiply, right? We multiply that process. It looks the same exact way. It looks the same way until it gets too big for me to be driving around and servicing all of these people during this buffer period. That I can't service everyone. So in addition to growing the business, in addition to getting more and more staff, we're going to bring in another manager. The manager then takes a lot of the weight off of my shoulders, and they're able to go ahead. We can mirror each other. Okay. Once it gets to the point where that is now shown that it's effective, this way works. What we're doing is we're building relationships. We're doing a good job. We're doing exactly what we say that we're going to do, and these customers are recognizing it, right? One of the things that we're always going to ask is, hey, in order for us to service you better, to be more efficient in your accounts, is there anywhere in these accounts where we can leave some supplies? Most of the time, if there's somewhere in those accounts where you can leave equipment, they're going to let you leave it there. Or they may, I just heard the other day, like, yeah, well, we can make room. There's nothing in this closet but a bunch of boxes. Okay. I tell you what, for this amount we can work it into the contract, or we can do a one-off. We'll come in, we'll organize all of this stuff. We'll get rid of what you don't want. And then we can store our equipment in here. No one's ever had a problem with us storing equipment there. Now, I will say this. There are rules, there are regulations, there are guidelines on not necessarily on what you can store, but how you can store and what needs to be stored with all of your chemicals, right? There's definitely rules that go with that. But when it comes to vacuuming and mops and all of that type of stuff, those are the bigger things. Those are the clunkier things. Those are the things that once you get big enough, that you can take some of the load off of your staff and then start storing in these different accounts. Now that we've talked about storing the stuff in different accounts, part of the equipment is not just, you know, the vacuums and the mops. Part of the equipment is also the things that it takes to clean the building, the solutions, your disinfectants, your towels, your mop heads. All of those things are now getting replaced and switched out by our managers or by an inspector. Okay, and we have a system in place to make sure that things are getting done the way that they're supposed to get done. So this exact model can go from one employee, and all you need to do is scale it, right? Once you scale it, just make sure that you're putting the right people in place. You're going to need managers, and at some point, you may want to you may want to hire an operations manager, or if you want to stay in the operations manager role, that's fine too, right? But this is how you would scale it on the W-4 worker side. Now, how you scale it on the if you're going to go subcontractors, it's so much it's a lot less top heavy, right? You have your contracts in place, your subcontractors know what they're supposed to do, they know what they're supposed to bring, and then it's up to them on how they move. Most of my subcontractors don't want to store any of their equipment on site, and that's completely fine with me. That's the progression of how it would look for logistics on the average person or the normal company side. If they're hiring W-4 workers, this is how the progression looks. Start small and then scale up. But yeah, that's it for today's video, man. I hope that you really got some value out of that. You know, in the game of business, spectators are going to watch, hustlers get into the game so they can win. Guys, I'm always dropping jewels. Just make sure you're in position to pick them up. You do that by liking, commenting, and subscribing. Once again, my name is Marcus Crockett. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.